Have you ever noticed how when unusual things happen with a president, sometimes the press will treat it like a big red alert? It's a week of stories. We need hearings. We need investigations. And sometimes when something unusual happens with a president, it basically gets ignored. We right now are in that situation. We have a sitting president, Donald Trump, sporting clearly bandaged, bruised, swollen right hand, bruises on both hands. We've seen it repeatedly at public events. First, he was covering it with makeup. Now he's covering the right hand with bandages. We are learning about MRIs during supposedly routine exams that weren't disclosed, only mentioned because Trump accidentally admitted to it, and then months of not telling us why they did it. And when they finally do, it doesn't make any sense. And yet, despite all of that, legacy, mainstream, and corporate media coverage is treating this Trump health situation kind of like a background drama. It might incidentally be mentioned, but meanwhile, just think back to how they treated Joe Biden's physical and mental fitness when he was in office. It was front page, primetime stuff, not only in right-wing media, but increasingly in non-overtly partisan media as well. And you think back to Biden's presidency and the short-lived reelection campaign of 2024, and many outlets argued, we are simply doing our job by flagging concerns about President Biden's age, about Biden's stamina, about his sharpness, but there was no immediate reason to believe that we were not getting Biden's health records, for example. Now, of course, Biden was declining. The disastrous debate performance, it became undeniable. And ultimately, analysts, insiders, it just became clear that he was not the right guy to continue. But the point is that all along, relative to the facts and what was visible, the coverage was nonstop. Now, contrast that to what's happening right now with Donald Trump. Trump is showing unmistakable, bizarre signs. A battered, swollen, bandaged hand, the MRI stuff, the confusion, the distraction, falling asleep 5-6 times in public last week. And we will, occasionally get a story that repeats what the White House said. Oh, frequent handshaking and aspirin and chronic venous insufficiency. And there is no real corporate and legacy media call for full disclosure. We aren't getting serious discussions of what's going on with his hands. They had no choice but to sort of cover the MRI stuff because it kept coming up at press briefings, but a sort of lack of curiosity. So this is really not about partisanship. This is a question about journalism and the media. What gets covered, what doesn't get covered, and it does reflect editorial decisions, story selection, framing. These are things that define public awareness and what people are thinking of. And when the same sorts of red flags appeared under Biden, people talking about misstatements or gate issues or, a sleep schedule or stamina, you had legacy and corporate media doing wall-to-wall coverage about it. And it was framed as, can he do the job? We are seeing worse red flags under Trump. And the sort of auto response becomes that is not really worthy of discussion. I'll mention a story, which I think I also mentioned in the past, which is that when I was set to appear on CNN about 6 weeks ago, the segment ultimately got canceled like 15 minutes before it was set to start because there was some industrial accident somewhere that they decided to cover instead. But I was asked to give a list of what is my audience worried about when it comes to Trump that I want to talk about. And I said, well, they're worried that he hasn't reduced prices the way he said he would. They're worried that even though he said he was the peace president, he's not really being peaceful. And they're worried about his cognitive decline. And I was told by CNN, oh, you're not really a doctor. I don't know that you should bring that up. And I said, well, you didn't ask me for a medical diagnosis. You asked me, what is my audience writing to me about? And my audience is writing to me about their concerns about Trump's cognitive decline. And ultimately, the segment got canceled. My plan was to talk about it anyway. But this gets me to the next issue. Is there an explanation, at least to a degree, that relates to fear of lawsuits from Donald Trump? Because Donald Trump hasn't just mocked or dismissed critical outlets. He has sued them, after all. In 2025 alone, Trump has filed these massive defamation lawsuits against major news institutions, 50, however many billion against the New York Times, and he's threatening lawsuits over the BBC. He's gotten some small settlements. And so I also wonder, is there an additional reason why we are not really hearing about Trump's health and the very strange situation with his hands on legacy and corporate media? Because they want to chill media coverage of it for fear of getting sued. Now, when you are talking about the president of the United States, and if you care about democracy, not about partisanship, we can't have this silence about Trump's health. We should be demanding honest reporting rather than spin. We should be asking for full disclosure, actual medical records, rather than a note summarizing the alleged MRI report. We need independent verification, and we need real experts commenting, not like Fox News Dr. Mark Siegel, who says it's a travesty that Trump's health is even being discussed. When the leader's physical condition is visibly deteriorating publicly, it shouldn't be sidebar that legacy and corporate media try to relegate to, the comment section. It is a matter of public interest. It deserves more than a shrug from the media. And if they continue to treat what's going on with Trump as trivial, we should all be asking, what other major stories are legacy and corporate media not covering right now? Thanks for watching. Check out this other video. And if you like our content, make sure to subscribe so YouTube puts our videos in your feed, and subscribe to the podcast on Spotify and Apple.